that you are in the midst of it, Lord, that you are considered. Lord, we pray for leadership and governance without bias and partiality, without prejudice, Lord. Lord, we just thank you right now for all that you have done for the town of Kernersville and all the things that will be done as we continue to grow together, diverse, yet one community, unified. Lord, we ask you right now that you also guide our nation, Lord, that you touch each and every serviceman, policeman, fireman, first responder, that you give them the strength to continue to press on, to do well in everything that they have been called to do. Lord, we thank you for every church, every pastor in this town that is serving you and serving others. Lord, continue to give us the strength to be a personification of you in this time. Lord, you are our Redeemer. You are our strength. You are our rock. You are our salvation. We give you all the glory. We give you all the honor in this day and all the days of our lives. Let the redeemed of the Lord say, amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we do not have any public hearings scheduled for tonight, so we will go directly to the public session. Our first order of business is speakers from the floor. I do not have any speaker cards returned to me, but if there is someone who'd like to speak to the board on an item that is not on the agenda, this is an opportunity to do so. Is there anyone who'd like to be a speaker from the floor tonight? All right, seeing none, we will go on to item 1B, consideration of a request by the Old Salem chapter of the Antique Automobile Club of America to hold the downtown cruise-ins from June 2022 to October 2022. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, you have the downtown event application in your packet. The Old Salem chapter of AACA, they're requesting to host an event on June the 11th, July the 9th, August the 13th, September the 10th, and October the 8th. All of those are Saturdays. They will be closing Main Street from Harmon Lane to Mountain Street, and then going north from Mountain Street up to the railroad tracks from 3 to 7 p.m. They will have an off-duty police officer there at the event, and they've done this now for several years. It's been a great event. We've not had any trouble with it. Staff is recommending approval of their request.
I see many members of the Old Salem chapter of the Antique Automobile Club of America here this evening. Would you like to address the board as to this request? Or are you just here in support of it? Okay. All right. Thank you. Do I have a motion? Okay. Motion for approval by Alderman J.R. Gorham, second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you again for the work in putting this event on. We enjoy it, and it brings a lot of people to our community, and we appreciate what you all do. Thank you. All right. Item C is consideration of an ordinance amending traffic schedule 2 of chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinance for updates to road names and numbers as requested by the NCDOT. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, you have the ordinance in your packet. It's an ordinance to repeal and approve items within traffic schedule 2 of chapter 9. And I incorrectly told the board at the last meeting that it was changing the speed limits. It is not actually changing the speed limits. It is just changing really just the way the name of the road is which comes first, I guess, the order of it. Right now it says East Mountain Street, and then in parentheses, State Road 1005. They're asking that we change it to State Road 1005, and then in parentheses, East Mountain Street. So basically they have the state road part first and then the name of the road after that. And the same thing for the portion on South Main Street and North Main Street, North NC 150 from Mountain Street to Bodenhammer and NC 150 from Mountain Street to Harmon Lane. So it's repealing the current name the way it's listed and changing it to what you have in your packet. So it will not change the speed limit, and I incorrectly told the board that at the last meeting.
Hey, are there any questions? Or do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Alderman Thompson, second. Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item D is consideration of a resolution declaring personal property surplus and authorizing disposal. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, as I said at the last meeting in our briefing, we do these auctions at least twice a year, sometimes 3 or 4 times a year. You have the list of items that we're recommending to declare surplus and dispose of. All of these items are, they've reached their useful life in one way or another. Some of them, some of the vehicles still run, need some work, might need some body work, mechanical work, whatever it may be. We most likely replace those with a newer model. So we're asking the board to surplus these items. We'll do it by electronic auction. We've been in the past using Gov Deals. That's what we recommend using again this year. That auction will start on February 22nd at 10 a.m. So if you want to bid on something, go on, sign up. You can bid on something as well. So be glad to answer any questions that you may have regarding any of the items in that list.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I had Chris and Bill at the same time. So how about motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple, second by Alderman Thompson? All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, I have item E, consideration of a resolution to update the meeting policy for the Board of Aldermen. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, the biggest change in this, as we've already done, we used to have a briefing meeting and then a regular meeting. The briefing meeting was on the last Wednesday of the month and the regular meeting the following Tuesday. We have now changed that so that it's just 2 regular meetings. On that Wednesday meeting, there will still be a briefing on the items, the public hearing items for the following week. We also changed the time of the meeting to 6:30 for both of those meetings. So we made those changes in the meeting procedures, the ones that were adopted by you all in December. So we need to go back and make those changes now to reflect the 2 meetings as well as the start time of 6:30.
Okay, would you like to also cover item F then?
Yeah, and all item F is the original schedule showed it as a briefing meeting. It's 6:30 and a regular meeting at 7. That is now changed. Says regular meeting, as you can see that Wednesday, February 23rd, regular meeting includes briefing on 3-1 agenda. And then the Tuesday, March 1st is regular meeting for March. So we've just changed the wording of that to reflect a regular meeting and to reflect the change in start times.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Has everyone had a chance to review items E and F? Okay. All right, do I have a motion as to item E?
Motion to approve item E.
I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And now to item F. Do I have a motion to approve item F?
Motion to approve item F.
Okay. Motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, moving on then to item G, consideration of projects for grant funding. And we are going to discuss the Cherry Street parking lot project. Mr. Swisher?
Yes, ma'am. This is we received a $250,000 grant, economic development grant from the state. They had some criteria for the projects. We looked at several different projects and we feel that the parking lot would be a public parking lot on North Cherry Street. It's where Dr. Whitaker's old house was and the rent house that he owned. If you go up there now, it's 2 vacant lots. As you go through the intersection of North Cherry and Mountain Street. You'll have the entrance that goes in near Mr. Barrow's office. Then you'll have the White House, and then 2 vacant lots. That's the 2 lots we're talking about. One of those lots, the one that backs up to the current public parking lot that is behind Fitz on Main, Ellington Jewelers, those businesses there. The parking lot, once it's done, will adjoin that parking lot so that folks that come in there will have a way out onto Cherry Street. They can go into Cherry Street and go over to Main Street as well. The town does not currently have a way to come out onto Cherry Street. A lot of folks do. They go behind the pawn shop and Scott Surveying and come out there, but we don't own that. That is a private ingress and egress. The lady that owns the buildings there owns that. You know, she's been kind in the past to let folks go in and out there, but the town does not own it. And it's kind of tight anyway if you try to use it. So we're proposing creating that parking lot there. We anticipate probably having a lot left, you know, the size of probably somewhere around 1/4 acre lot, maybe a little bit larger, that we can either sell, keep, however we'd like to do it. The estimated cost for the project, including the contingency, is $315,814. We did, Rebecca East in Finance has talked to the state, and they said, you know, if you do the project and it does happen to come in over the 250, submit it. We might have some extra money to go toward it. So it's possible that we, you know, if we go over, if we run up to the 315, it's possible we can get some extra money from the state. If not, whatever it goes to over the 250, we'll be responsible for. But it's a good opportunity to get the parking lot done and the bulk of that paid for using funds other than the town's. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding that. But some of you were on the board when we purchased that property, and I think probably all of you kept up with it. When we purchased it, it was purchased with this project in mind. We've just not had the funding opportunity yet to do it. So it's a good time to do it if the board so desires.
Are there any questions?
I got a question. This total down here, $315,814. Who did that? Who come up with that?
Public Services.
And what do? Put it up for bid, or are they going to do it?
Dorn, some of it will be done by Public Services, and then some of it will be done by outside contractors. Dorn, if you can come up and kind of break it down, if you will. We'll do some of the work, though, to keep it down at that price range.
First of all, the estimate itself is just a preliminary estimate because there's no construction drawings as of yet. But Curtis is correct that when we bid it out, it'll be bid out, and the lowest of 3 bidders will get it. But we do plan to do internally what work we can. We haven't divided that up yet. So we'll just, once we get bids in, or once we get the drawing in, we'll see what our own forces can do to save money.
Okay. I just wondered. Thank you. You'll keep us apprised as it goes on, correct?
Say again?
You will keep us apprised of the bids and who got the best bid and all that type of thing? Or
Yes, sir. All that has to come back in front of the board for your approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Apple?
Doran, just for information, so we'll know and so the public will know, how are your 3 prospective bidders selected? Is there a rotating schedule? What happens?
It is advertised to the public, and then you have to be, of course, a North Carolina licensed contractor to bid. And then the lowest responsive bidder wins the bid.
Okay. As a former procurement officer for the government, you're talking my language, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we can have far more than 3 bids submitted, but the board then can look at the top 3 in a public meeting and decide who to go.
3 is the minimum requirement for a public bid.
But I mean, 12 people could respond if they had wanted to.
Well, I'm pleased to know that it's advertised, because that means that anyone who's qualified can bid on it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what's before us now is the town manager recommending this as a project and seeing if this is a direction the board would like to go in. And more detail follows as after the board approves the idea of going to this, and then more detailed information becomes available later, and votes on that information happen later. But as Mr. Swisher, do you agree with that as a
Yes,
statement
ma'am.
of where we are right now?
Yes, if the board chooses to do this project, we would just need a motion to move forward. For submitting this as the grant project, I will tell you that we submit it to the state. They don't have to accept it. They may send it back and say, no, we don't accept this project. If they do that, we'll drop back and punt and try to find another project. I can tell you that right offhand, we don't have another project in that price range. We could probably combine those funds with the project somewhere that we have going on and try to get that project to meet the parameters of the grant. But this is the one that we could use basically all of the funds for one project. So we would submit it. I think it has to be in by February the 17th. We would submit that and then hear back from them. They're usually pretty responsive, so we'd hear back from them soon after.
All right. Are there any more questions? Any more questions?
I got one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
The part of that parking lot that's up there by Dr. Darian's office, it comes out right across the street from First Baptist or the Baptist Church. Does the town own that part of the parking lot?
On Main Street?
Is it
On Main.
if you go in the parking lot there by Dr. Darian's
Yeah.
and go to the very back, we own directly across from that where the grass is vacant.
Right.
That's what will be converted. I don't know that we'll convert both vacant lots into a parking lot, but that's the one that will be the parking lot and have the ingress and egress out of
Right.
it.
But the question was, does the town own the part that's on Main Street?
No,
They don't?
no, we didn't. The vacant lot on Main Street right beside of Dr. Darian's.
No, the parking lot that's Dr. Darian's.
Oh,
land.
yes, town owns it.
We own that.
Correct.
The
I'm
old
sorry.
Justice lot, I wasn't asking about that. Okay.
Yep.
The existing parking lot?
Yes, we own the existing parking lot around to Janie Beach's.
Gotcha.
And then she owns, it's my understanding, she owns the part there where it goes out.
She does.
Yep. That's what she's told me anyway.
That's what she told me too.
Do
Thank
we,
you, Kurt.
I don't think we own the part, or maybe we do, that's near the barber shop and Founders Park, or do we own that part of it too? You might want to put a map up. Have you got a map? Andy, there was a map in the packet.
Yeah, we own the part as you pull off of Mountain Street at Founders Park, right beside where Jesse White's barber shop used to be. I don't think we own that.
I
do
don't
we?
think we do because it's all posted restricted parking for those businesses.
I think if I remember correctly, just have an access easement.
I think that's correct.
He actually owns that.
Yeah.
And then I think part right behind that building is also restricted parking for the
That goes-
apartments.
Yeah, that goes with Miss Beach's part through there.
Would it be fair to say we kind of have the bulk of the rest of it though?
Yes, ma'am.
I think probably whatever's not got signage on it would be a good estimate of what the town owns.
Yeah, we own the good way of looking at it is what doesn't have signage in where the islands are, the parking islands. That's our part as well. I think the rest of it does not have the parking islands. But as you pull in off of Mountain Street, go down behind Chopper's, go beside of Chopper's barber shop. And then if you make a left and go out like you're going behind Mr. Barra's office, that part we do not own either. But everything beyond that, we do own.
Did I understand that we do own an easement over that off of Main Street?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And then the entrance is right next to the doctor's office that
We-
John Barrow was.
We own the entrance
referring
right
to.
off of Main Street beside the doctor's office, correct? I believe that's correct, isn't it, Dawn?
It's the part off of Mountain that runs next to Founders Park, and the part kind of if you're in John's parking lot and you go out to Cherry Street, those are the parts that they've talked about that we don't own. So if we develop this lot as a parking lot, it could be nice, like the museum parking lot. The town developed that one, and it would connect the existing ownership of a built parking lot with a new parking lot. How many more spaces would we gain?
Dorn, do you remember how many spaces it was? Says concrete wheel stop 60, so, okay, 60 spaces.
Okay, so we've discussed this. Mr. Thompson? Okay. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item H, consideration of a resolution establishing a conflict of interest policy. Mr. Swisher?
We do not need item H. You can vote to remove it from the agenda. We were told that our existing code of ethics, which incorporates conflict of interest policy, we were told that is sufficient for the state grants. Now, if they change their mind, we'll bring it back, put it back on the agenda. But right now, that's what they're telling us. So you don't have to vote on a new one tonight.
Okay. Mr. Powell, do we need to take any action on that, or it's on the agenda, but we've already had the meeting? I don't see any need to
There's no
amend
need
the
to do
agenda.
it like the town manager says.
Okay. All right, item 2 is the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine by the Board of Aldermen and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so request, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. Item A, it's a request by the Chamber of Commerce for a Recycle Day event in the Town Hall parking lot on April 2nd. Item B is consideration of a resolution setting the dates for the 2022 Spring Folly. C is consideration of an ordinance for temporary road closures for the 2022 Spring Folly. D is consideration of an ordinance for temporary street closures for the 2022 4th of July Parade and fireworks. E is consideration of an ordinance for street closures for the 2022 Christmas Parade. Is there anyone who'd like to ask any questions about any of these individual items or discuss them? Mr. Apple.
When we close, not only for the Spring Folly, but for the car show, is there any arrangement for access to Mustin and Crutchfield parking lot if it's on a Saturday? Do we do anything to accommodate that?
They access it off of Cherry Street.
Okay.
Usually, and sometimes for the car show, they have in the past blocked it right before you get to Railroad Street, and then they can come in the first driveway to Mustin's. But they always have it off Cherry Street.
You're talking about that single lane that goes beside the building, beside Love That Music.
They would come in and access it going into the parking lot of Mustin's, depending on where they block it. Sometimes they'll go all the way to the railroad, but most of the time they block it right there. And, depending on if the cars are lined all the way up to there, if there's somebody at the barricade, they'll let them around and come in. Otherwise, they'll just go around Cherry Street and come in the back.
I would just like to encourage that we take into consideration, and it certainly could be argued that all the businesses along Main Street when we close and on Mountain have the same issue of access, to the parking that they normally do. If you're a grocery store, I guess I would argue that it maybe is a little bit different in that if people can't get to it, they're not going to shop, so.
And what we've done in the past is the businesses on the east side of North Main Street, they come around and access it from Railroad and Short Street. We have the detour sign directing folks that way. And then the ones on the west side of Main Street, they'll access everything off of Cherry Street, which once we get the new parking lot, that'll be easier because there'll be another cut through, but they can now come up Armfield and Hughes Street and access it there. Mustins, they'll access through the back parking lot off of Cherry Street.
Okay.
So, and we have the detour signs to tell them which way to go to get in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and usually there's only about 3 or 4 folks that are open at that time. And so we've made provisions to get them in there.
I think that's important that we do that. Thank you.
Okay, is there any item that we should remove from the consent agenda? Anyone in the audience, staff, or citizen watching the meeting desire to remove any of the items? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
I've got a motion by Alderman Joe Penix. I have a second by Alderman Chris Thompson. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Chris Comer from the Chamber of Commerce is here today. We're excited about all the events you have planned and look forward to them. Thank you so much for the work that you and the volunteers and your staff do. All righty, we are to speakers from the floor again. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on an item not otherwise included on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the town manager's report.
Madam Mayor, I have 3 brief items. The first one of those is the resolution in your packet. The board approved applying for the grant a month or so ago. We have received the grant. It's acceptance of a grant award from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Governor's Crime Commission for $22,484. Is for equipment and training, including the purchase of protective equipment for officer safety. There's no match required, so we would not, we would not have to match any of those funds, and it's for $22,484. Be glad to answer any questions. Chief Summers is here as well. He can answer any that you might have.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion? Motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Barrow. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, Mr. Swisher, your second item.
Second item, Madam Mayor, I never heard back from the acoustics engineer that I contacted in Raleigh. Mayor Pro Tem Apple put me in touch with a firm over in, I believe, Winston-Salem, and the Columbia Engineering, and they have submitted a proposal to come out and help us with our noise ordinance and setting some reasonable decibel levels. So what they're proposing is to come out and they will take 2 readings in the morning, 2 at night, at the 3 different zoning areas that we set forth in the chart. So we've got residential, commercial, industrial, and then get the other one, institutional or something. So the 3 that's in there, they'll come out and do 2 samples in each one. They will also go down to the Brewer's Kettle where we have the outdoor entertainment venue, take some readings there along their property line and also along the residential property lines. And they'll make a recommendation on what a reasonable decibel level is, to have there at the stage so that you'll have a lower sound noise at the residential areas. So they will come out and do that. I have spoken to Mr. Kennedy. He has some concerts coming up. They will do this, by the way, between, if it gets approved, they'll start on it tomorrow. So between February 9th and February 28th, Mr. Kennedy said he has some folks that will be there playing. If not, he will arrange for somebody to come in and adjust the volumes to where, where we think they need to be. Once the engineering firm gets that done, they'll make recommendations back to us. They'll have it to us by February 28th. I don't know. There might be enough time to get it on the agenda for March, the first meeting, if not certainly the second meeting in March. I know you all had expressed wanting to go out and hear the noise. So once we get what his recommendation is down there, then I can schedule a time for the board to go out and have Mr. Kennedy have the noise at the the recommended decibel level. The board can see what that is. It may not have to go as a group. I can schedule it. You can go 2 or 3 at a time, however you want to do it. But so they've given us that. The total cost is $4,331.25. So it's a little cheaper than I thought it would be. I think that's a fair estimate for that scope of work. I talked to the gentleman. They do sound studies for most of the Publix grocery stores in this area. When they're looking at locating somewhere in a residential area, they'll go in and do a sound study to kind of tell them, the best way to locate the parking lot, their loading docks, and so forth like that. So they've done several of them. They have another engineer that they work with in Florida also that they can get some expertise from as well. So if the board so desires, you can make the motion to approve that contract with Columbia Engineering. I will sign it and get it to him tomorrow, and we'll get started.
Okay, are there questions or comments? Or do I have a motion?
What's
Go
their
ahead, Mr.
phone
Barrow.
number?
What's their phone number?
Engineering, what's their phone number?
It is 1-800-404-0357. And I think we called Damien DiVittorio directly on his direct line. Their main office is in Duluth, Georgia. They have some offices, some other ones set up throughout the Southeast. And the gentleman that we talked to is in charge of the North Carolina area. So I think it's North and South Carolina. And we called him directly on his, I think we called him on his mobile phone actually. And I do not have that with me, but that's the number they have on their letterhead right there.
That'll work for me. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say that my first meeting, this individual and the company, was at the North Carolina 2022 Transportation Summit in Raleigh. They were one of the many engineering firms that were exhibitors at the summit. So it was purely coincidental that I ran into him and that they do this kind of work. So I appreciate your checking into it though before we approached them. Thank you.
Mr. Barrow, I looked up, I have their North Carolina office if you want that number.
Yes, please.
It's 336-200-9150. And their address is 500 West 5th Street, Suite 800. Yeah, that's in Winston.
Thank you.
And the gentleman we spoke to is Damien Vittorio. I guess that's how you pronounce it.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I would move, Madam Mayor, that we proceed with the recommendation of staff and the contract that he's proposing.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor? Raise your right hand. All at the same time. Thank you. It's unanimous. All right. Mr. Swisher, you had another item?
Last item I have, Madam Mayor and Board, is I'd like to let you know that we have been awarded the 2021 Best in Class Employer Award from Gallagher, which is our insurance, not our carrier, but our broker, so to speak. That's out of 4,000 employers from across the U.S. And we were recognized in the top 10% for excelling in supporting employees' physical, emotional, career and financial well-being for better organizational outcomes. There were 2 others in North Carolina that were also recognized, those being the town of Wake Forest and Orange County. So we will start promoting that tomorrow. We think it's a great award, great recognition to receive. We feel as though it'll help us in recruiting and also in retention of employees. So I'd like to thank Crystal and the HR department and all of the department heads for the job they do in getting us that award. It's, a lot of effort from a lot of folks that does that. So.
Congratulations. I appreciate all your hard work. Thank you to our employees who made that award possible.
And I do not have anything else, Madam Mayor.
All right, Mr. Powell.
I don't have any presentation to make, but I would appreciate the board entertaining a motion to go into closed session.
Thank you. All right. Are there any matters to be presented by the Board of Aldermen? Mr. Penix? Thank you. Mr. Gorham? Thank you. Mr. Apple? Thank you. Mr. Barrow?
Yeah, I got some. I get a lot of phone calls about potholes in the last week.
There's
What's
a
the deal?
there's a particularly bad one near, I think, Marketplace on 150.
Yeah,
They said it bent the rim and flattened the tire. I said, I'm sorry, I'll
There-
get them right on it.
there's one on Highway 66 going south right before you get to Business 40 that if you hit it, your whole car is gone. But Alderman Thompson called me about the same thing, so I'll update the board on that a little bit. I can tell you that on all the town-maintained roads, to my knowledge, and Dorn can correct me if I'm wrong, we have about gotten all of the potholes taken care of. We are not responsible for South Main Street, North Main Street, Mountain Street, Bowden Hammer, 66, any of those. And I will tell you that South Main Street, once you cross over Business 40 on South Main Street and you head south down to the stoplight, it's rough as a farm road. And I'm going to tell you, it'll beat your car to death, going north or south. 66 between Parks Buick and probably Captain Tom's, depending on which lane you're in, it'll beat your car to death. There used to be one going east on Mountain Street, right as you go through the first roundabout, had a pothole on the inside of the roundabout. And then as you get out of the roundabout, if you're lucky enough to move far enough right to miss a pothole in the roundabout, you hit the one right as you go under the railroad crossing or right on the railroad trestle. And it was big enough you'd lose your front end of your car in it. I will tell you that I've contacted Dorn on several occasions. We went out and filled some of those that are on state maintained roads. We did north Cherry Street going south, right before the railroad tracks, right behind Farmers Feed and Seed. There were 2 or 3 that were really bad. We did the one I just spoke of on East Mountain Street. I don't know if we've done any yet on 66 or we just let DOT handle it. Yeah. So the potholes that are out there may be some. I'm not saying there's not any on town roads, but we've gotten most of those that we maintain on the town roads. If you get calls on them, just call me and let me know where they are. We'll report them to DOT. It's not a fast process. The one on East Mountain Street was about 4 months, and we finally just went out and filled it. The road plates, especially all the road plates that were in front of your office there at one time, looked like Road Plate City.
Yeah.
That's not us either.
Yeah.
That's not even DOT. That's city, county utilities. And I will tell you, they don't really tell us when they're coming in to do that. They just kind of show up and start digging. If they're going to close the road, they will let us know, usually like a few hours before, sometimes maybe the day before. But then if they don't show up to do it, they don't let us know that they're not showing up. They just don't show up, and then they show up some other time and close it. So I think most of the road plates in town are gone right now. I did see one the other day somewhere, and I don't remember where. So there are some places in town that are pretty bad. Fortunately, unfortunately, however you look at it, fortunately they're not ours, but unfortunately they're still there. So we notify DOT when we see them. that notify CCUC as well. I mean, there's one on Oakhurst Street right before you get to Mountain Street that's been gravel for 3 months now.
Right.
So it's just a matter of manpower and time, I guess, to get them taken care of.
Right. Well, I just heard a bunch. I didn't know the process.
Yeah, it's a slow process. We're much faster. If it's our road, we're much faster
Right.
about getting it taken care of. But DOT, they've got a lot more road to take care of, and not comparatively, not as many. They've got as many folks, but not what they need.
Right. Thank you, Curtis.
Yep.
Mr. Thompson,
No, ma'am, I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Apple?
Curtis, I have one question, one observation. The road plates that are in front of Mr. Barrow's office, I think when City County Utilities came to do that, it was, as you said, without notice, and there's a restaurant over in that area that actually had their dumpster back in that alleyway. There've been reports of sighting of a 20-pound rat walking down Mountain Street. So I know that it presented of course, I'm kidding about that, but it presented a problem for them that they didn't anticipate and had to scurry around and, do that. So.
Yeah, and was it Prescott's that was having the issue? Was it Prescott's? Yeah, and I spoke to Bob and told him that it was CCUC and gave him the number to contact, but it was actually a contractor for them. And the issue was, even when they were open, I think they had so much of it closed down that the dumpster truck didn't feel comfortable going in to get it and then backing up. And I suggested to Bob that he contact his company and ask them if they could send in a smaller truck. We have a small set truck that we can go in and out for ours. And I don't know if they ever got that resolved or not, but I'm assuming they have now because the road's back open. But if we get notice of it and we can see something like that, we'll let folks know. But a lot of times it's just the fact that the notice is either non-existent or it's so short that there's really nothing we can do.
Is there anything else? I just wanted to express appreciation to the Kernersville Fire Rescue Department, Chief Alderman, and the firefighters and the command staff and the firefighters for their support of the firefighters in Winston-Salem during this fertilizer manufacturing company fire. We appreciate we have mutual aid agreements with Winston-Salem, and sometimes you're called on to help, but we appreciate the professionalism and support that you provided for their department and for the other agencies that also participated in that response. I saw August Vernon today. He was very tired, but just thankful for the great fire service that we have in our community and in the surrounding communities. So appreciated those efforts by your department. You're welcome. All right, is there anything else in open session at the moment? All right. I understand we have a closed session, and always after a closed session, we go back into open session to close out the meeting and take up any other matters that are before the board. So at this time, do I have a motion for the closed session? Okay.
Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 43-18.
And Alderman Gorham, are you being picked up by the microphone?
Let's try that again.
Okay.
Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to A5 regarding a contract concerning the purchase of real property.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion by General Gorham, second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor? It's unanimous. call this meeting back to order. Is there any further business before the board this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Is there a second? Second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you for joining us tonight. This meeting is adjourned.